tonight we are going to become the thyroid master. The person that's going to guide us through becoming a thyroid master, I named her Tasha. Right? So Tasha, she is a little concerned about life, and she doesn't have as much pep as she used to. And and when she was a teenager, she could roll with it pretty easy and not get as much sleep and wake up the next day. And I remember a funny college example, but Dr. Scott's wife, Amy, and I used to, I think it was Thursday night, we would drive up from Ogden up to Logan and spend all night up in Logan hanging out with our buddies, and she'd play soccer, and then we'd go dancing in a dance club up there, and a nice clean place, and then come down, and I had early morning class on Friday morning, and I think I had to be there by 6:30, and more than once, I just did not sleep Thursday night. I was in college, so who cares, right? And that's how it is, and that's how life is. Those were fun times. But as you get older, you can't do that as much. And you kind of start slowing down. And Tasha's worried about that. She doesn't have the pep that she used to. She might be putting on a few extra rolls, a few extra pounds. And she's a little more tired, and her skin's drying out a little bit. Her hair's thinning a little bit. So, and Tasha, she's looking at her mom. And she's noticing that, hey, looking down the road a little bit doesn't look so good. Some of these things aren't really the best things. I don't really want hair loss and sensitivity to cold and all the other problems go with it. Memory problems and constipation. And you know what? The thyroid has been related to depression so much. If you don't have energy, you're not happy. I don't care who you are. I don't care what's going on. If you don't have energy, you're not happy. The thyroid gland has been called the happy gland for many reasons. If you're kind of tired and sluggish, you're just not that happy. One of the things that I want everyone to understand about thyroid hormone, and I'll go through this a couple times, but that every cell in the body has little receptors that come off it. And every single cell has a thyroid receptor. And as this thyroid hormone comes in, I'm trying to do this with a microphone, right? Comes in and the thyroid hormone binds to this receptor. It tells that cell how active to be in the metabolism and in the healing and repairing, just how awake it should be. And if your thyroid hormone is low, your whole body is sleeping to some extent or another. It's just not fully awake. Okay? Another graphic that shows thyroid stuff, and you'll find these all over the place. And I thought this was pretty again, but it shows a lot of that stuff. Weight gain, how your body converts fewer calories into energy. You walk around, I don't know who has a twister in their back, but that's a common thing that we all can relate to. Sensitivity to cold. Infertility is associated with low thyroid, and there's a lot of problems with that. You guys can see that. Okay, let's go and become thyroid master. So Tasha, she wants to know the thyroid hormone pathway. And on your notes, this is not where you take notes yet. Hold on, guys. Hold on. But this is the thyroid hormone pathway, and I want everyone to see it. Okay, it all starts up, if you can see that little word up there, in the hypothalamus. That's in the brain. In the brain, you have, if you take a look at the brain, you have, the outer part is gray, and then you have underneath it, it's white. In the middle of the brain is the thalamus. Two big glands, two big nuclei, and one on each side, and they really do quite a bit. That's one of your main computers in your brain. It's so important that the part underneath it is literally called under the thyroid gland. Right? If you're under the thyroid nuclei, the hypothalamus means under the thyroid. This is where it all begins. And the hypothalamus, located right there, releases something called TRH, thyrotrophin releasing hormone. And what that is, it's a little chemical in the brain, and it goes down to the pituitary gland, which is located right. I'm going to have a lot of fun with these arrows. We're located right about here. It's again in the brain. It's on the bottom part of the brain. The pituitary gland is called the master endocrine gland. It controls everything. In fact, any hormone gland in your body, it doesn't produce anything until the pituitary tells it to. And the thyroid follows that same pattern. So the pituitary gland releases something called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Wow, I don't know. Thyroid stimulating hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone goes down to, we finally got there to the thyroid gland, which is located right there. Okay? And the thyroid gland it spits out this thyroid hormone, T4. Now the thyroid hormone, it's not on the notes, but I'll get a little bit more specific. It spits out 93% of what it spits out is T4. 7% of what it spits out is the active form of the thyroid hormone T3. Okay? But just for simplicity's sake, it spits out T4. T4, thyroid hormone, then goes down to the liver, which is located right here, and the gut, which is located right there. If you didn't know that, that's too bad. The gut then takes this T4 and it converts it over to the active form of thyroid known as T3. Okay? So it takes the thyroid hormone, classically it has 4 iodines associated to it, and it takes off one of those iodines, and it's now active triiodothyronine T3. Okay? Active thyroid hormone. That's not going to be tested later. Okay, the liver does the same thing. These are the 2 main places where that thyroid T4 is made into active T3. One fun part about that, and I was just reading about it, I wish I had my computer set up, looking at the gut and how it actively changes that T4 to T3, and so much of that is in the microbiome, or the bugs in your gut. This is an article that was published in Molecular Cellular Endocrinology in 2017, so this year in February. And the name of the article is called, quote, "With the help from my little friends, the role of the microbiota in thyroid hormone metabolism." I kind of thought that was funny. Interesting, just a little side note. As medical literature is published and found out and researched and published, how long does it take from publishing date and, okay, we're finding this out, to implementation into medical practice? Anybody, on average?
20 years.
85, 20, 15. 15 is what it is. So this that you guys are learning about tonight will be common practice in about 15 years. Right? Looking at, hey, did you know that your microbiome actually makes a difference with your thyroid hormone? You're like, yeah, I knew that. Of course I knew that. I'm a thyroid master. Thanks for asking. Okay. So one of the fun articles that I looked up was that. So the gut and the liver do that. Then T3 goes there, goes there, goes there, goes there. It goes everywhere. You guys get that? It goes to every cell in the body. You have 100 trillion of them. And the T3 hormone goes and stimulates each one of these individually to tell it to be active, including going back up to the hypothalamus, saying, hey, guess what? We got our thyroid hormone. We're happy. This is cool. Okay? As it goes to the T3 goes to the cells, there's a key term here I want you to know. It's called T3 uptake, and that's just basically saying how much of that thyroid hormone is being used by these cells. Okay? Are some of the things that cause low TSH, low serotonin, low dopamine, high amounts of inflammation, or higher inflammation than we'd like. Prolactin, high amounts of prolactin, or high amounts of cortisol. When cortisol is off too much in different ways, that will affect your TSH. Bet you didn't hear that from your medical doctor. Okay, T4. If T4 is too low, bound T4. It can be because one of these, or some of these, are low or deficient in the blood to the extent that we need them. Okay? Iodine, selenium, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin A, or omega-3 fatty acids. Or low progesterone, excuse me. Okay, if you have a high or low free T4, oh dear. If you have high T4, high free T4, look at metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is something we see quite a bit. And to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, you look for 5 different things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Scott, on any of these as I pull them out of my head. If your waist circumference is smaller than your waist circumference is larger than your hip circumference, that's one marker. If you have high blood sugar, fasting blood glucose that's a little high, if you have high total cholesterol, if you have low HDL. No, it's high triglycerides. What's the fifth one?
Just the weight.
Weight.
Obesity.
Okay, yeah. If you have a BMI that's a little higher, body mass index that's a little higher, metabolic syndrome. Hope I didn't botch that too much. So look at that. So metabolic issues and ways you can control your metabolism can affect that T4, bring it down. If you have low T4, you might have high estrogen. Something to look at. Okay, we're jumping over to the bound T3. If your bound T3 is low, look for gut inflammation, increased gut inflammation, increased overall inflammation, decreased serotonin, or decreased dopamine. Now these serotonin and dopamine are peripheral. It's not necessarily in the brain, it's what's in your gut, it's what's in the normal part of the body. We'll talk about how to raise those in just a little bit. High or low free T3, metabolic syndrome and estrogen again, same as T4. High reverse T3, so your body's converting that T4 to T3 in a funny way, and it's too much of it's coming out the reverse T3. Look at the same things as bound T3. Gut inflammation, overall inflammation, serotonin, and dopamine. All right, low free FTI, thyroxine index, same things as bound T4. Okay, if you have high antibodies of either one, first thing you got to think of is inflammation. My inflammation is too high, and how can I bring that down? Next, you can also look at iodine. If you have too high of iodine, that can lead to too much TPO antibodies, and you also have to look at progesterone. Now, this is one thing that I see commonly with women, that they come in and they're about menopausal age, and they were just diagnosed, and if they come from there's one practitioner in town, I actually think that this practitioner is a fabulous one, but if they come from this practitioner, I guarantee they have a progesterone patch on, or they have a progesterone cream or pill or something. And the first thing I asked them all the time was, were TPO antibodies looked at? Was the thyroid peroxidase antibodies thought about or looked at all? And usually the answer is no, unfortunately. Although this practitioner does claim to practice functional medicine. I want that to be looked at a little deeper, because if you have a problem with your TPO antibodies and you give progesterone to that, it'll help you sleep better. True, you'll sleep through the night a lot better. Your thyroid is going to let you know that there's a problem within about a month. Okay? If you have high thyroglobulin antibodies, you got to watch out for some of the thyroid meds on this. Some people like to be very natural. I want to be natural. My doctor said I need thyroid medication. I want to do the natural medication as much as possible. The glandular, the stuff that comes from the animals that will help boost my thyroid naturally. If you have thyroglobulin antibodies, they like that natural hormone, and they're going to react to it. Your immune system's going to say, "Man, I keep seeing more of this stuff. You got to be kidding me." And it's going to ramp up. You start thinking, "Man, taking my medication, it's not working as well as it used to. Maybe I should take some more." And you're just fueling the fire in an ongoing process with that. Be careful. Okay. If T3 uptake is low, the cells are not taking up that hormone like they should, but for inflammation or cortisol. Or low vitamin A. Oh, there's another one. What is it? High amounts of homocysteine. That's too bad you can't see it. It's really good. High amounts of homocysteine. Okay, so let's start talking about ways that we can improve these things. If you have inflammation in your body, or there's inflammatory problems, there are some really good ways you can help out with that. This is a list from the Institute for Functional Medicine showing good botanicals and phytochemicals, to help bring down inflammation. That's a really good list. And I'll give everyone just a minute on that one.
Can we get a copy of the slide?
If you're lucky, I'll give you a copy.
We don't have
I tried to get out of that by giving everyone pens and paper.
Take
But yeah,
forever.
there's some good ones. And I won't be on this for too long, and I'm sorry, I can go back to it. I'll have this up at the end, okay? And just a couple more slides. But I want to get to this next one, because you'll also want to write a lot of this stuff down. Dosages, isn't that cool? So it talks about some of those same ones with dosages. Yay. That's an important one. we'll go back to those in just a little bit. So that will take care of the inflammation, and we see inflammation in various parts. Inflammation will reduce this whole system down in a number of different ways. And someone might notice, man, I have a little bit more energy after I take an NSAID or after I take some kind of anti-inflammatory medication for my knee pain or my back pain. It tends to give a little bit more oomph, and that's a signal for that, right? That's a sign for it. Next, I think we want to look at serotonin, if I'm not mistaken, if I made these slides. Okay, serotonin. Here's an example of serotonin. I picked this slide on purpose because it shows how serotonin is made and some of the cofactors that are needed when making that the body uses. Okay? Tryptophan, of course, is an amino acid. Amino acid is it's part of a protein. Proteins are big hairballs as you eat them. That's what they are, little miniature hairballs in your stomach. And it goes into the stomach, the acid unravels that, and then there's enzymes that cut it up into peptides and then to amino acids. That's the smallest building block of those. And tryptophan is one of those. True or false, tryptophan makes you tired. No, false, false. All the carbohydrates you eat with your turkey is what makes you tired. But tryptophan, found in turkey, found in organ meats, found in egg yolks, nuts, seeds can have some good tryptophan in it. But tryptophan with iron, activated form of B9, that's MTHF, B3, vitamin C, and vitamin D, all used. Go down to this next step, and you can see how we use different steps and different enzymes and minerals to make serotonin. Okay? This next one shows the same thing. I liked this picture better, it just was fuzzy, so I made that other one too. But this one I like a lot better. If you don't have enough iron, you don't have enough vitamin D3, vitamin C, you are not making serotonin. So maybe you might not need a hormone or a thyroid medication, maybe you just need some vitamin D. Maybe you need some iron, maybe you need to absorb these things a little bit better. Okay, what reduces serotonin levels? And I put this one in specifically because I'm a chiropractor and I like it. Okay. As you look at what reduces serotonin levels, I'm going to jump right to this one, and hopefully Dr. Priestman, that makes him happy too. Subluxation. Who's ever gotten an adjustment from their chiropractor and you kind of get up and you're like, man, I feel good. You know, I do that about every time Dr. Priest adjusts me. I get up off the table thinking, thanks, buddy. Like, that's great. This is wonderful. Thank you. That's my favorite one, but there's a number of different things, of course, we've already talked about that can reduce your serotonin levels. 6 ways to boost serotonin naturally. I did this just because it was fun. Probiotics. I'm just going to zip through this, guys. B vitamins. You have to eat the amino acid to make the serotonin to begin with. Sunlight, get your vitamin D. Exercise, get out and go, of course, and good massage, because when I was making this, one of the massage therapists in the office was looking at us and says, yeah, massage, that's cool. And who's ever gotten up after a good massage thinking, man, I feel good, like this is great, thank you. Happens every time, and if not, get a different massage therapist. Okay. That's serotonin. Next, we're going to look at dopamine. A lot of this is the same, and I don't want to bore you with it too much, but I just want you to see the information, okay? We have phenylalanine, it's an amino acid. It needs, guess what? It needs iron. Iron is made for every single neurotransmitter needs iron. So if you look at someone and we ask them questions sometimes, and they're answering the questions where acetylcholine is a little low, or catecholamines are a little low, serotonin's a little low. I'm going to go look at their labs and see, do you have any kind of anemia? It affects very much so. Okay? A lot of the cofactors, we talked about that. Vitamin C, yes. Okay. 7 strategies to raise dopamine. I mainly did this actually, I want to see that last one, for the last 3. And anyone that has dopamine, if you have a dopamine problem, you have to think about motivation. They're just not motivated. They have a million projects that just aren't done because they're started but are hanging around the house. Those are dopamine problems. Right? But sleep better, improve your microbiome, set little goals and achieve them. One of my employees, I won't name who it is, but we're at the beginning of the year and we were talking about setting goals for the next year. I said, man, I always set big goals and I have a whole bunch that I want to do. And then after about 6 weeks, I'm so devastated I haven't done any of them. I just drop them all together. And so we talked about what's like something really easy that you can do within the next 4 weeks, and just that's your goal. Once you do that, make another one, but you don't have to become super person, you know, in 2017. I mean, yeah, it doesn't happen, but steps of improvement, small steps are really important with this. And it helps improve dopamine levels. That's kind of cool, okay? But set goals, small tasks. Today I'm going to do this, and then I'll be happy with it. And pat yourself on the back. Totally did the laundry today. Rock on, you know? That's really cool. I've earned a 20-minute break. I'm going to take it. And be happy with that, and be okay with things, okay? Small tasks and regular exercise. Even if you regular exercise, again, for some of these dopamine sufferers, regular exercise is kind of tough. But if you got out and walked around the block or walked out to the mailbox and back, but be okay with that and be happy with that. I just wanted my spot back, Amy, so I could do that. Okay. I think cortisol is next. Or yeah, cortisol. How to improve cortisol. I want everyone to know where cortisol comes from. And the first thing that when I'm looking at cortisol, that I want to look at, to say, hey, you know, I think your cortisol might be an issue. How's your cholesterol level? Yeah, it's kind of low. 120? It's kind of low. Maybe we should bring that up a little bit. And I get the look of, did that doctor just tell me to raise my, what? You're trying to kill me? Heart disease? What? No, I had a grandfather die of heart disease. I'm not going to have higher cholesterol. That's ridiculous. But it does make a difference, right? Cholesterol goes down, progesterone to cortisol. It makes a big difference. If you don't have the building blocks of cortisol, you will not have cortisol. News flash, everybody. Okay, so now with Tasha, you guys hopefully are, wait for it, Thyroid Masters. There we go. And that's it. Any questions, anybody? Everybody, any questions?
Once you've been on thyroid for years, can you go off it?
I'm going to refer you to your medical physician. Hopefully.
What harm would come if she decreased and decreased and decreased? What signs would we be looking
How
for?
active do you want your cells to be in your body? And that's what you have to ask yourself, right? Maybe harm, but if you're not active, you're not active. Immune system, gut, brain, you want those to be active. And the active parts, in fact, I find it very interesting that the brain is the one that regulates all this. It's one of the most active things in your body, right? It weighs like 2 pounds and takes 25% of your oxygen and 20% of your blood sugar at any given point. And it's like, you know, 1% of your body mass, and it's taking all these resources. It's also the one measuring your blood pressure, measuring your thyroid, and regulating these things.
Also, okay, our bodies are created to repair and mend themselves.
Yes, ma'am. Principle number 1, agreed.
Okay, when you go off of medication, wouldn't your body take over and restore and rebuild that thyroid?
There's a limitation of matter and a limitation
Will you
of...
just repeat her question?
Oh, yes. So, you know, the question being, you know, if you're on thyroid medication for a number of years, I would take it, and you decided you didn't want to do that anymore, so you stopped putting that pill in your mouth, wouldn't your body just step on up and return to normal function? First of all, I might ask you 2 different things. Do you have all these other levels okay? What's your peripheral serotonin? What's your peripheral dopamine? What's your overall inflammation? But you also have to understand that the body adapts, and it's made to adapt. And it might be able to adapt back if given the right environment, yes. If the right environment, and some people come in to me, I'll use a chiropractic example, and if I get, you know, an elderly woman that comes in and says she has hip pain, and I take an x-ray of her low back and her hip, I might just say, hey, you know what, you're past that point of, it would have been nice to know you 40 years ago. I would have been about this tall. There's no coming back from that. And you have to understand that with some of these medications as well, it will rewire things to a certain extent. You might not bounce off that fully.
But I don't feel like I'm any better than being on them.
refer to your physician about that. And there's different effects with that. That's when people become puzzles to us.
I'll take that.
Sometimes it takes a little bit to figure out the puzzle, and sometimes you don't get the puzzle all the way. The body is very humbling to work with. Good questions. Any others? No others? Okay.
What's your favorite mode of medication since you contact herbs? You kind of said not glandular. You're talking Synthroid being a good, like what is your?
It depends on, now if it's just there are some people that do have primary hypothyroidism, meaning the gland just does not function enough. To answer that question, I put in an extra slide here because I thought I might get some of these questions. And there's 10 things you have to really look at for that. Number one is, 10 key clinical questions to assess function of an endocrine system. Number one, I'm sorry. Is endocrine gland. Number 3, is the endocrine gland able to produce that hormone enough? And if it's not, and that's primary hypothyroidism, which I think is about, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Scott, about 10% of actual thyroid cases. You know, that thyroid gland, it's not cutting it. So we're going to substitute a little bit into that, and that does happen. The thyroid gland being for whatever reason, maybe we live in a radioactive place, or maybe it's just gotten bad nutrition and just kind of died slowly over the years, that does happen. You need medication. If it's,
What's your definition of medication?
so there's a number of different medications on there, and you can do not a Synthroid, but like a
Nature
Thyroid, thank you, or some of these
Armor.
natural medications. But if you have that one antibody, you don't want to do that. So it just has to be measured and looked at, and you have to walk through that maze correctly. You can't just throw them on a natural without measuring that. I don't think that's a good idea, but good question.
Is Hashimoto's a Chinese name that somebody made up, and what's the difference between Hashimoto's and a regular thyroid?
Like a primary hypothyroidism. Dr. Hashimoto, it's named after the guy that looked at it and found it and started realizing, hey, you know what, there seems to be antibodies to different parts of the thyroid here. And I mentioned 2 antibodies, but you can get more active and start measuring a whole bunch of those. That's when I would look at Lisa and say, hey Lisa, you know, our phlebotomist, how many antibody tests do you guys have, and what do you guys have? And there's an antibody test for almost anything on there. Hashimoto's is when you have an actual autoimmunity to part of the thyroid gland or the thyroid hormone, and it's knocking out parts of the thyroid. And if you think about that, right, it's the gland is producing enough hormone, and then the immune system eats it up before it's ever even used. The feedback loop is good because it's showing, hey, this was produced, and so everything looks happy. Man, the person is just struggling, right? That would be a classic case of Hashimoto's. The other difference, and I'll go back to the primary hypothyroidism, that the gland just is not producing what it should be producing. So that's kind of the differences there. If it's an immune response or if it's another response.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, my thyroid masters. You have graduated. Thank you very much.